Alright, today we're going to take a quick tour of the Valley of Fire State Park in Nevada. Here we have a memorial to Sergeant John J. Clark. He was a guy that was traveling from Bakersfield to Salt Lake City and wandered through this part of Valley of Fire. And this is his resting spot where he died after wandering around in the desert. His body was found on June 30th, 1915. Here we have a petrified log. This is a tree that has fallen probably 150 million years ago. It was a pine tree and washed to this area with floodwaters. And over all these years, it has slowly changed into stone. As you can clearly see, the log of this really old tree. On the road again, leaving the petrified log and off to our next destination. When the Valley of Fire Park was built in 1936, these cabins were built by the Cabin Conservation Corps and were used to shelter visitors to the park. A few small steps up and walk into the cabin, which is about 10 feet square and even has its own little fireplace with a wooden roof. Can't beat this view. The neighboring cabins are similarly appointed. This one has a corner fireplace. It's about the same size. This one's maybe a little bit bigger, also with its own fireplace. An unbeatable view. Looking down from the mountains, the cabins are constructed of individual sandstones held together with some sort of mortar and wooden roof pillars. Pretty neat. If these cabins had a back window, you'd have a really nice view of a wall filled with ancient petroglyphs. There's some sort of a circle, spiral. Below it looks like maybe some form of animal. Several different animals. And maybe some sort of writing. One of the more popular day use camping spots in the Valley of Fire is the Seven Sisters, which are 7 pretty unique rock formations, all by their lonesome out here. Let's see if we can count them. Is that 1, 2, 3, I think 4 is behind there, 5, 6, and 7 individual large rock formations way out by their own in this big valley. I don't think this is considered one of the Seven Sisters, maybe a little brother, but this one looks like a bust or a head. As the sign says, the relentless forces of erosion caused the Seven Sisters to take on some pretty unique shapes here. This rock actually forms an alcove. Over time, as nature chips away at these massive stones, they kind of fall to the ground here. stack up quite nicely. And there's the moon. If you were so inclined, this area by the Seven Sisters is reserved for weddings, and a permit is required. Look at that little rock all the way at the top up there. Someday that'll fall. Just a matter of when. This appears to be the area where you could have a wedding. Nice shady spot behind one of the Seven Sisters. Pretty neat. Quick turn off to the right takes you up to the visitor center. Watch for wildlife. Tortoises. Oh yeah, this is where the White Dome, the road that takes you over to White Dome is there. We'll go ahead and cruise by the visitor center. It's still pretty early, so the gift shop is currently closed, but this plaque states that this is Nevada's first state park, established in 1935. Oh, look at that, prematurely on Easter Sunday, 1934. For the adventurous types, there's plenty of interesting handholds and footholds you could use to climb around. Although it is sandstone, so pretty crumbly rock. This is something you don't see very often in rock. And actually go all the way up around and lift back out. A hole within a hole in the side of this big sandstone rock. Imagine how many years of erosion it must take to cause the rock to form. All these little crevices and cracks. The water dripping down and around and off. Plenty of places for birds to nest, I'm sure. Creatures and critters. And for people to leave their mark. It is April 3rd, 2021, and that makes 4/3/21. Pretty popular date for marriage. Easy to remember your anniversary, at least. And as such, there's already been 2 wedding parties out here that we've seen. We're now heading to Balancing Rock. It's about a quarter-mile round trip. Quick little jaunt from the visitor center. As you snake down and around this short pathway, you can see the prize at the end of the trail, which is this rock, precariously balanced on top of the other rock. From a different angle here, the Balancing Rock looks kind of like a dinosaur, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, with blue sky behind it. It is 9:01 and the flags have been raised. The Stars and Stripes and the Battleborn Nevada flag. And the visitor center is open. Local weather today, it's going to be 95 degrees. So we better get a move on it before it gets too hot. Some artifacts here. Bighorn sheep skull. A jackrabbit skull. Some desert tortoise shells. A rattlesnake. And a bat skeleton. A little bit of taxidermy here. We've got a bighorn sheep, a desert kit fox, a coyote, and another bighorn sheep. The ancient remains of marine colonies. This fossil coral is commonly found inside the park. Some of the different rock types here. You've got limestone, sandstone, gypsum, conglomerate, a mix of all of them, and desert varnish, which is what they use as a blackboard for those petroglyphs we saw earlier. As with many places out here, this valley that we're in was at one time, 500 million years ago, the bottom of an ancient sea, teeming with life. Mountain lion perched atop the rocks here, stalking some prey. These guys seem to make their way all the way down into the city. And there's a badger. Is it a honey badger? A timeline of footprints of people who have traversed this valley. All the way up to modern day sneakers. As with any visitor center, you exit through the gift shop. Pyrite, fool's gold, desert rose, quartz, some silver and gold, and arrowheads. Shortly after the sign that warns you that there's no drinking water available beyond this point and you better fill up, take this long and winding road uphill towards the White Dome trailhead. And I believe Mouse's tank is back here somewhere too. This is one of the cooler roadways through the park. There's twists and turns and elevates. And you get a spectacular view at the end. Here we are at Mouse's Tank trailhead. This is named after an outlaw who used this water basin as a refuge for drinking water that naturally accumulates here. And he spent days or even months hiding out here. Somewhere out in this direction. Let's go. And we step down into the sandy beach-like area. Be prepared to kick the sand out of your shoes for many days after you leave here. Hundreds of thousands or even millions of years of erosion and water flow and now foot traffic have turned these limestone rocks into essentially the same as beach sand. It's actually finer than beach sand. Pretty amazing. Just off the side of the trail, some of that rock formation that essentially creates a blackboard where ancient civilizations created petroglyphs on. Some more petroglyphs here.
There too. To your right, up to the right, a lot right
there. Even more petroglyphs that have survived the test of time are found on the side of this
Animals.
big mountain.
That's cool.
All kinds of stuff. Animals, a little family. Multiple animals. And a quick bend to the left, and we're nearing the end of the trail here. Coming up on Mouse's Tank. Left or right? Let's go left. And as we reach the end of the trail, you can see where this outlaw named Mouse actually hid out in this crevasse here, which on other times that I've been here has been filled with water. It's now bone dry. Not a bad place to hide out if you're running from the law back in the day. Funny how you find life in the strangest of places clinging to the side of the rock. Right above Mouse's Tank is this plant. Just kind of tucked in there. In this small slot canyon leaving Mouse's Tank, we found another mouse. Kind of looks like a Mickey Mouse or a skull. This rock is covered in pimples. After that hike, this is what we're dealing with. Here we are at Rainbow Vista. Named, obviously, because of the variety of colors you have from this vantage point. As far as the eye can see. The Silica Dome is a giant sandstone formation. It's made primarily of silica. Here we are at the very popular White Domes trailhead. I think it's just over a mile. And as you can see, the sandstone is a very different color out here. I think it's comprised of more silica, hence the different color. Let's take a look. 1.25 mile loop, and away we go. It says it'll take an hour for 1.25 miles, and that is because it's slow going through this sand. All right, we reached the top of that hill, out of breath, but you can see some more of the rock formations here. Some more of that blackboard looking matter that coats the rocks. I believe it said that's ancient fossilized things like algae and other kinds of life that dies and leaves itself behind. Julie wants to get her snowboard out and go for a ride. Huh? It looks like snow almost. Watch your step here. I don't want to go sliding. That's what we just came down right there. And this is where we're going.
Should we go this way?
We will go this way.
Oh, big lizards both on the rock.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Whoa, big ones.
They're solid.
There he is between the two rocks. See him?
Got caught. Got caught lizards. Oh, there's one over there too. I see the tail. So they just walked away.
And I know what you're thinking. This looks like another planet out here. And if I'm not mistaken, these ruins are the remains of a movie set, if I remember right. I want to say they filmed like an episode of Star Trek out here or something. Let's see if my memory's right. Nope, I was wrong. The Professionals. 1920s. Oh, no, I was right. Star Trek Generations. An episode was filmed out here. It is otherworldly. Onward. Once again, looking back on where we came from. We're now moving along into this little slot canyon here. And around the bend.
Yeah, that was some bad. Good job.
A much younger and thinner me once sat in that hole and took a picture. And when we get home, I'm gonna see if I can find it. Or was it this hole? You know, it could have been this one. If I had cell signal, I'd look it up right now, but no, it must have been that one. Well, we'll have to see. I probably took that picture with a BlackBerry. That's how long ago it was. We'll find out. These funny looking rocks are known as the beehives for quite obvious reasons. As you can see, there's lots of places to climb and crawl and scramble around. Take a break from the hot sun. It's 70 degrees, but it feels like 120 if you're in the sun. Gotta stay in the shade out here. This is a good angle of the pretty famous rock that hangs off over the edge here. Has some petroglyphs on it. This is a pretty amazing rock formation here. As you can see, the sheer face of it fell off at some point in history, and there's quite a few petroglyphs up there. Of the many natural arches in the park, this one is the biggest and most famous and has its own designated stopping area. Hopefully everybody respects the sign that says "Do not climb on the rock." Some of the natural inhabitants of the park. We have some bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep.